Welcome to my review of the PodShow London 2023. In this video, I'm going to share my overall review of the show. I'm going to share why I went and what I got out of it, and I'll share my 5 key takeaways that I'm going to be thinking about over the next 12 months until we all get to do it again. So let's get going. Okay, my show review. Top line thoughts. The first thing, and I thought about this last year, was who is the show for? I had people in the community, clients, other podcasters say that it wasn't for them, which is interesting because I felt like this show was a little bit more creator and podcaster orientated as opposed to the high level ad spend, big brand, make money from podcasting. But yeah, a lot of people said they didn't go because they didn't think it was for them. So I think maybe the show itself needs to evolve, grow, and bring people in or demonstrate some value for creators that are sitting on the fence. So that was the first thing. The second thing is I liked how much they brought in loads of new exhibitors. There was a real range. Last year it was a bit limited. I felt this year they represented the content creators, the people that are looking to grow, influencers, celeb brands. There was a lot more this year. Yeah, maybe that's a reflection that you've kind of got to pay to speak. I don't know, but I think that was an improvement from last year. A big negative for me was that the Ask the Experts and the creator rooms were too small. Like, people want to learn how to do this. They want to get into the industry. All of those rooms struggled to hold the number of people that wanted to attend them. There was 3 talks I didn't get into, and they had like a queuing waiting area. That was a shame because I think the fundamentals of this industry are the creators themselves, the podcasters themselves, and that new blood coming through. So for those rooms to not have the capacity for them, that was a little disappointing. Another note on that, on the creative vibers, I think for certain types of attendees, there was lots of schedule clashing. There were multiple things. There was one, I think on the second day, on the Thursday, there were 3 talks at 1 o'clock that I wanted to go to. How do they fix that? I don't know, because they've got 60 talks in 2 days. I get the scheduling, but yeah, maybe there's a longer day, maybe there's bigger rooms, things are combined, maybe less talks. On the subject of talks as well, I found the talk titles were a little ambiguous. Yeah, I think ambiguous. Some of them kind of didn't, the talk itself didn't deliver on what I thought the title was. Even their briefs, they kind of didn't hit the mark. A couple of delegates felt that they were a little bit clickbaity or misleading. So talk titles, talk timings could have been improved. Definitely make the bigger rooms for creators would be awesome because people are there to learn. There was some sentiment from myself that it might feel a little bit overwhelming if you're a newcomer to the industry, or if you're coming from other places in media, you might find it looks a bit ad spendy, a little bit corporate, a little bit like the big boys run the show. But I still believe that the fundamentals of podcasting are the creators that are creating content with passion and consistency, and not necessarily the celeb podcasts that are maybe ad inventory for those media companies. My overall wrap up is that I felt that it was great to have everyone in the industry come together. I would like to see more content creators coming in. They had loads of influencers and TikTok, and the notion of using social media and copy content to grow your brand. And I'll talk about brand and content creators a little bit later in this video. But overall, it's brilliant that it's here. It's like a big conference in Europe. It does bring everyone together. I think it can be bigger and it can keep growing. And I think the sentiment for podcasting and content creation in Europe and the rest of the world is really strong. People are enjoying the space. People are seeing the benefits, and people are learning how to monetize and sustain their creative businesses. So now let's talk about why I attended the podcast show. Why did I go? Well, to start off with, it's a great opportunity to network. We've been locked up for too long with the COVIDs and the remote working. Like, I want to get out and I want to meet more people. It's like the priority for me is to engage more creatives or people working in the creative space. And that's my objective for this year. Just meet more people, try and collaborate with as many people as possible and help people create better content. The second thing is friends. Like, I met some people last year that I hadn't met before, and it was good to have conversations that we could kind of jump into a bit easier. It changed the show for me this year. I was less introductory, like, oh, I do this, this is my experience. You almost feel like you're requesting credibility at these shows when you first go to them. So it was great to see friends, new and old. I go for expert advice. Now, when I say expert advice, I go for all the advice people give. I, in my head, work out whether it's good for me, good for the industry, good for newcomers, or if it's bad. There is lots of bad advice out there, and I'm not going to single out anyone or anything, but it's good to know what people think is good advice and maybe not. I need to be aware of that. I feel like they're potential trip hazards for the space if too many people are saying something that isn't quite true or beneficial for their content creation and their podcast. And finally, when I'm listening to people talk, I am trying to map what that looks like for the industry. If everyone says enough of the same thing or they do a lot of the same thing, that will become a trend or a fashion. So I was really interested this year to hear the sentiment behind social media, TikTok short form, the use of video, and how people can monetize their content. There is a big push for video. There has been for the last 3 or 4 years. There is a big push to excel and grow an audience on social media platforms. That still exists. But listening to see what the trends might be is really key for me to attend. And that helps me identify problems in the community. I engage people directly to ask them what they're up to, what they struggle with, what they don't struggle with. And I think about how us as experts or coaches or consultants or production companies or people with media experience, how we can help the future generation avoid those problems, or if we can just solve those problems. So that's key for me, to try and identify as many problems as I can. I will talk about some of those in my 5 takeaways. And then finally, I go to build my brand. Like, I can't build my personal brand without attending things like this. I'm a very, I like to engage people. I like to see people's faces. Sarcasm never works over text. Don't try it. But I like to build that brand. I want to be known as someone that is supportive, that is fun, that is a guide. I used the term this year, Sherpa, content creation Sherpa. I can carry everything, including you, all the way to the top of the mountain, or I can just give you directions and I can support you along the way. That's the brand I want to build, and I need to be out there meeting people to fully develop that brand. So that is why I attended the podcast show. Did I achieve all those things? Yes, it was great just to hear and meet people and understand how everyone else is finding their way in this content creation world. So let's get into my key takeaways from the podcast show 2023. Now, my first key takeaway has been around for ages, and I kind of want to bring it to the forefront. I'm doing more video content now. I want to share it with you. And that is the sentiment of just get started. It's a great sentiment, but I feel it needs a little bit more substance to it. It needs a little bit more framing. That what does just get started look like? Very similar. I feel the same about when people say create value-packed content. And it's like, yeah, but that's so subjective. You need to tell people how to work out what value is for their audience to then develop the content, right? That's by the by, but just get started. I feel that this just get started rhetoric can be incredibly unhelpful, and it can lead to failure a little bit quicker than maybe that it deserves, right? I am not saying that failing fast isn't a good thing. Failing fast is a good thing. But when people fail and then just stop, that's a bad thing. So I think people should get started. I think they should just get started in developing their passion and understanding the commitment it takes to create a podcast and grow a podcast and sustain a podcast. It's big. Just jumping on a microphone and just saying stuff is great, but you need a level of detachment to that content to know that that's throwaway content, that you're finding your feet, as it were. So that's the first thing about just get started. The second framing of just get started, I think it is 100% the best thing to do, to join the community, join other podcasters, start to learn what it's like to be a content creator. That is definitely like join this incredible space of podcasters and people that want to see you succeed. Yes, get in there as soon as possible. Should have done it yesterday. You can do it after you've watched this video. So just get involved. You get support, you get growth. And that takes me on to my third framing for just get started. Just get started preparing yourself to learn and test and learn. You need to work out your why. You need to work out why you're the right person to do it. You need to work out who your audience is. You need to work out how to create content. Just get started in that framework of learning to create, test, and adapt and evolve. That's great. It doesn't necessarily need a microphone right now. It doesn't need a hosting plan right now. It doesn't need artwork made right now. Just getting started, get in the community, meet cool people, and then just do the deep work and plan the resources and energy needed for the future of your podcast. Takeaway number 2. Now, this might be a controversial one, but I always find it really funny where events like this sort of have the tract for branded podcasts. Well, in my mind, I don't know a podcast that isn't branded. If you're just chilling in your basement, creating stuff as a hobby, if you want any level of success, you need consistent tone, messaging, goals, vision. You need everything that a brand does. Consistent visuals, consistent marketing. There isn't anything that, it's the same plan, right? You're either doing branded or you're doing a hobby, but you're going to do all the same things. So it made me think a little bit more about what is a branded podcast. There are people out there that just do branded podcasts. And I thought maybe it's about how you handle brands. Like, we know that brands have money, so that's a great idea to not just help hobbyists because they have no money. So yeah, I'll just aim at branded podcasts. So we know they've got money. We know that they've got a marketing budget. We know that they want brand growth, acknowledgement, recognition, intent to purchase. So is creating branded podcasts more about being able to manage people, key stakeholders and egos? Is that what it takes to make a branded podcast? Or is it the challenge of being able to create something new and innovative that stays within brand guidelines and compliance for some of these big brands, right? That's a challenge. How do you create something that's new but still fits the old style and tone? Or is it about creating an ROI on content for people that aren't creatives? Is it about taking business owners and executives and C-suites and creating content on their behalf because they just don't have the capacity or the skills or want to learn those skills? So it was interesting, some of the branded podcast stuff that I went to see, because a lot of the key takeaways from there were exactly what I'd tell any podcaster about making content. So that was takeaway number 2. Takeaway number 3. Now, this is an interesting one that I kind of saw from multiple talks and listening to people describe their experience. The difference between influencers and celebrities. Now, creators and influencers, in my mind, are willing to do the work. They've cultivated the audience. They have built the workflows. They've tested. They've made mistakes. They've engaged. So influencers actually pound per minute of energy are far more valuable than celebs that kind of get flown in, given a script, 30 people produce the show. A lot of the big shows have those teams. It is subscripted. But an influencer or a creator, they've been in the trenches. They know how long it takes to make these things. So for businesses and brands, I see there is a shift to using influencers for micro audience marketing over a celebrity. A lot of the celebrities can have mass appeal. Yes, they have their field of expertise or sport or reality TV or whatever it is. But their mass appeal might be harder to market to certain brands, right? If you've got that pure audience, then yeah, I think that influencers are going to take control of that ad spend if they manage it right. I also think that influencers and creators understand how to make changes quicker. They care about the content and they really care about the audience. So in terms of trying things and adapting, influencers and creators are going to be far better than a production team and a celebrity to run your podcast. So that's something to think about. My key lesson there was that brands and partners need to not get in the way of influencers and content creators if they do work with them, because the influencers have the relationship with the audience. They know what the audience will like. So if you are a brand or a partner out there and you want to work with influencers, let them create the content the way they want to create the content. If it doesn't work, I'm sorry, but I think they know their audience best, and we need to learn to trust people that have put in the shift to make that content. Key takeaway number 4. Podcasters are really nice to each other, like really nice to each other. They champion each other, they sing about each other. I went to 2 different drinks, one by Captivate and one by Acast, and everyone's so nice to other people. Like, they introduce you with like a rave review. It's so wonderful. And it got me thinking, like, is there a point where high performance will tarnish that community vibe, that high spirits and that kind of we're all in it together? What happens when you start getting pressure from stakeholders and brands and numbers, or output increases stress you out, creator burnout? This kind of mass appeal that you might want from a podcasting brand, is there going to be a change in tone when that comes in? I don't know, and I hope it doesn't, but that was something that I hope doesn't go away, that keeps that podcasting community so incredible. My big final takeaway, this isn't new, but it's definitely hit home again. Community is king or queen. Like, community is everything in this space. And it's so exemplified from the old school podcasts, like old guard that have been doing it like 20 years, right? They knew the power of community, they knew the power of audience, they knew the power of engagement, all the way through to the new sensations that are coming through TikTok, right? TikTokers know they need to engage. That's the constant that runs through all these platforms, all these different mediums, is community is king. And with that in mind, I think that the industry of content creation, or the creator economy, or podcasting, whatever frame you want to look at it through, is that your cheerleaders are as significantly important as your critics for this space to grow. People need feedback. They don't need nasty feedback. They don't need trolls. That doesn't help anyone. But good critics make content creation better for everyone. When people start improving their audio quality, that's a significant marker. When people start including the video, they start scripting, they start thinking about cross-platform promotion. All of that is brilliant. But you need the community to champion it, but also to criticize when people are lazy, sloppy, phoning it in, don't miss the mark. And so many audiences now will call a creator out on that as soon as possible. But take that as constructive criticism, not as like a stab in the side kind of thing. On this subject as well, I thought this last year, and it's definitely hit home this year. You can't buy a community. You can't buy an audience. You just can't, because if you do want to monetize and you want to engage in partnerships, that audience, that engagement is the significant KPI. You cannot just buy an audience. There's no amount of Facebook marketing or, buying followers that can give you the level of success that is sustained long term. And that made me think, while I was writing this, it made me think about virality. And this was mentioned a few times throughout the 2 days that I was there, is that virality isn't always great. It can bring a completely new audience to your channel, whether it be a podcast, YouTube, or social media. It can bring a whole new audience, but they've not been vetted. They don't really know you. They might not want what you offer regularly. They might be just sort of a passerby. So you've got these followers, but still low engagement because of one piece of virality. I believe that you should strive for maximum views, maximum reach, and success is at the top of the mountain. I 100% believe that. But seeking out virality by maybe doing things that aren't within your brand, or you're just following trends, or you're doing some shock marketing. We've seen that in the press recently, where influencers are like doing things that aren't okay, stealing people's dogs. Like, don't do that. You could pigeonhole yourself as well. You could do something and then people just want more of that, right? I think of the Carlton dance, right? Alfonso, he's got to do the Carlton dance wherever he goes now. So seeking out virality is good as long as you're producing content that aligns with your goals and your brand. And then the final thought on all of this content, community is king, is start small and be consistent. Just start with a really small audience, speak to them, narrow down, and just be consistent and grow and grow and grow. Don't aim for hundreds of thousands of followers too quick, because you won't build those relationships with those 1,000 true fans that are going to help you get to the stratosphere. So those are my 5 key takeaways. So that is my review of the Podcast Show London 2023. Thank you for watching. If you made it all the way to the end, that's really cool. Thanks for hanging around. I hope you found this video useful. If you did find it useful and you know a creator, a podcaster, or someone else that might benefit from watching this video, share it with them, let them know it's there. If you really liked it, give me a little thumbs up. That would be beautiful. But until next time, be good.